Hello, everyone. Syed and I are here again. We have been talking about American fractured democracy. What is the state of our democracy? Why is it so fractured right now? What factors caused it, and how can we fix that? We are continuing this throughout the election year. We will be talking, we have been talking, and we are very encouraged by your response and your participation in this about the US democracy, the largest and the biggest democracy in the land of the brave and the free, as we claim it, which affects the entire free world, Europe, Asia, Australasia, North America, Latin America, South America, everywhere. US is like an elephant, and I don't mean like the Republican elephant, which is part of it, and the Democratic ass, which is also part of it. So we have an elephant and an ass. Either one of them takes turns. And most of the time, we are the asses. They just make us a fool. So this is where we are, and this is what is the state of democracy. Now, our current president has been hashtagged as genocidal Joe. Syed, there is a reason for it. Three, Bush, Obama, and now Biden. Three American presidents. Started with Reagan and it continued. Carter was the last comparatively more civil president than all of these. He just had one term. And then the Iranian hostage crisis, US hostages crisis in Iran, which Republican Party exploited, and they removed Carter. Carter lost that election. And since then, Reagan started this war frenzy, which took half of this world into that fire, which spread like a jungle fire. We are from Pakistan. Pakistan suffered a great deal because of Reagan's, disillusioned war, which he labeled as a religious war against the Russian infidels. Afghans and Pakistanis fought that proxy war for the United States. And then after Reagan, the idiot Elder Bush continued. He had one term, and then then Bill Clinton came in. Bill Clinton, even though he had two terms, and he was a very intelligent man, and at his time, there was a war in Bosnia, and there were other wars as well. But he did nothing much about it until Bosnia was really, damaged by this war. And then after that, the real idiot Bush, who had IQ of probably earthworm. Probably earthworm has a better IQ than that. In contrast, we got a man of very, very high IQ. First time in the American history, a colored man became the president, there was no sign of it. But when you mess up so much, then it gives an opportunity to the other person. We have a common saying in Arabic Islamic history. It's called, it's not the love of Ali, it's the animosity of Muawiyah, which led people to, go to war against Muawiyah. So when you don't necessarily like one, but you hate the other one so much that you stand up against them. So people stood up against Bush. Nobody knew much about Obama because Obama was a new entrant in politics. He was considered, he was a community organizer. He was a brilliant man, very well presented, very articulate. But Obama messed up so much in terms of world peace. Hillary Clinton was his Secretary of State. He made deals with two most vicious politicians in American history, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Joe Biden has always been a corporate politician. He always supported corporations, like bankruptcy laws, financial laws, other laws. He always supported corporations against people. And Hillary Clinton, as ambitious as she was, and she's always damaged people's cause, she was, because of her ambition. Her husband was a very ambitious man. So she took upon that ambition and she rose that. So she became Obama's Secretary of State, and She sold most weapons in American history in those 4 years to any state, anyone. The phenomenon was called pay to play. All the countries on US blacklist, or anybody who could pay, they got weapons from US. The half of the world, from Libya to Afghanistan to Pakistan to Latin America, were on fire. This was Obama's time. Obama was a Democratic president. So Democrats, Republicans, it didn't really matter. And then after Obama completed his 2 terms, but it was so, terrible for American people. It was so good for corporations. Obama was a great president for American corporations, whether those were financials corporations, whether those were consumer, corporations, whether there was pharma or the warmongers. Above all, the warmongers. Obama did great for them. It's the American people who suffered. The middle class shrank. The concentration of wealth kept getting skewed over a period of time. It got so worse, at Obama's time, that people, the two very unorthodox politicians, Bernie Sanders, who's an independent from Vermont, but he caucuses with the Democrats, but he's the face of socialism in America. And Donald Trump, who, I don't know what to say about Donald Trump, but he's not a politician. He's a business person, and he's definitely a Beltway outsider. He's extremely outspoken. A lot of time unnecessarily. He damages his own cause and others as well around him because of his uncontrolled passion for blabbering. And that probably caused him, one of the factors that caused him his presidency was that. So that Obama's and Bush's unscrupulous presidencies caused this rise of Bernie Sanders. Democratic establishment, Democrats, are very, very, very cunning. They're clandestine. Democratic Party was the original racist party. They supported KKK and all those. From there, they went 180 degrees and then they came back 360 degrees. They're back there. But they disguise it so well now that the stupid colored people like us think that they should, caucus with them. They support them. All those idiots who believe in blue no matter who, they have damaged American democracy so much. Because then you don't look for people or principles. You just look for that color, whether it's an ass or an elephant. You become an ass, in the process. So that's what happened. So Donald Trump was great in one way, his presidency, apart from other things, that he curtailed all the wars. Despite all of his venomous rhetoric, which was pointless, from Mexicans to colored people to shithole countries to Muslim countries and all that. He curtailed all the wars. He didn't start any war. He was pressured so much, even until the end, to end this nuclear deal with Iran so they could go after that. But he didn't. Credit entirely goes to him in the modern US history. There is no American president who curtailed or stopped wars as he de-escalated tension with North Korea. Like North Korea never existed. He de-escalated tension with Iran. And he de-escalated tension in the Middle East. But he could not have won because we, the voters, the people, are so facile. We go for a politician, no matter how vicious and how big of a profiteer and warmonger it is, as long as he calls his family, his daughters and his wife and kisses them on stage. And we think, oh my God, he's such a family man. And that turns out to be John McCain or, other warmongers. We don't care about that. We are very facile. We see that presentation. Donald Trump, even though he catered to a very dissatisfied and exploited, citizen base in the United States, he just failed to understand that how facile we were. I mean, he's also facile in many ways, but he failed to understand that, and he kept blabbering. What was genocidal Joe's wedge issue, or what was his platform? oh, when I'm president, you will not have to wake up to an ugly tweet at 2 a.m. That was his. I mean, this is an issue in a country like America. So this is our state of democracy right now. And then we bring this idiot, Genocide Joe, which I used to, my hashtag before that used to be Ugly Joe and Dirty Harris. That was their ticket. He becomes the nastiest and the ugliest face of America in modern times. Immediately, he pulls out of Afghanistan, he leaves his pants behind and he runs away with billions of dollars of weaponry and machinery and assets leaving behind, and Americans' pride. It's like he deflowered American pride in Afghanistan. He left all of that there because this was not for no reason. He had to start the war in Ukraine for his masters. And mind you, these two wars that Biden started have nothing to do with what seemingly seems to be the reason. Ukraine war has not much to do with Russia or Ukraine. This may surprise you, but we have talked before about that as well. America's most formidable threat does not come from Russia, does not come from Muslim world. It comes from European Union. Ever since Europe decided to become a union, it has caused alarms in the national security circles of United States. Because nobody can stand up to America except for European Union. So from very beginning, we went after European Union. We got our poodle, the bootlicker in Europe, England, to pull out of European Union. They tried their hardest and best to damage the European Union cause, but they could not. They damaged themselves in the process. And then they wanted to go back. You saw after they pulled out of European Union how many heads of state changed in England and how England destabilized to the point that they elected a worse idiot than Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden combined. Rishi Sunak is a major idiot who has no principles, who has no policy, and he's up to no good for the British people. Things got so worse that they ended up having him as prime minister. This is the effect of American democracy, American policies on other countries. England, being the greatest ally of the United States, suffered so much. But soon after, European Union realized that, they were conned, like their lunch was eaten. American oil companies made in excess of $200 billion profit because of this so-called Ukraine war, which does not affect them. It does not affect America in the sense that no oil comes from Russia or Ukraine or from that region. But oil prices were doubled, and the war is so profitable. War makes so much money. Why would any American president not go to war? And every time you go to war, and war is within their country, you damage your own goodwill, your own principles. The land of the brave and the free. When you go with the kind of firepower United States has, and you attack and carpet bomb civilian children and women in other countries, what kind of moral power or authority you have left with you? Democracy is based on your morals and values. Democracy is not engineering. It's not science. It's purely morals. No country can claim to be a democratic country, whether it's America, India, or Israel, to be democratic, when this is what they're doing to people. There's a large number of Israelis who do not condone all these aggression and genocidal work that this Zionist government is doing. And who is their biggest backer? United States. Where is our moral authority? What do we stand on? Where is the land of the brave and the free? If you mess with somebody else's freedom, your freedom automatically is at stake. You cannot be free. If you don't value freedom, if you don't use it as a principle, you remember that idiot went to Iraq to spread the seeds of democracy there? That affects you. The fire comes back home. You may not think, because, United States is situated in a very, very safe, place in the world geographically. But geographic damage in this day and age is the least. The number of people rising, the kids, the young people standing up in streets, in schools, in colleges, in universities, in businesses. Business people are usually and very careful. People who have jobs, they don't do any such thing at their workplace because of, the system, the professionalism, or whatever it is. But people have had enough of this thing. You are carpet bombing civilians, children, women. It's not acceptable. You cannot be a democratic country if you're doing it. What moral authority your democracy has, and how can you go and tell anyone that China is abusing human rights or Russia is doing whatever they're doing? You don't. Your democracy means nothing. Your own people stop believing that. They see it. You have not seen this kind of unprecedented resistance and protest from within all these circles of society. If you go and check out Jewish Voices for Peace, which is one of the greatest organizations that promote peace, and they bring the atrocities and the war crimes committed by Israel and the United States. They're all more active than ever before. They're bringing so many horrific stories that no human can tolerate those. People are being killed point blank, the innocent, unarmed people. Sometimes I feel that Hamas is an arm of Israel. Because everything they do, they benefit so much to that. And I was telling you earlier that all the warmongering quarters, which includes politicians, war companies, all kind of profiteers, oil companies, I told you, they all wanted to end this nuclear deal with Iran so we can escalate the war threat against Iran. That didn't happen. So what we did is, Israel works for us in many ways. Attack the Iranian embassy in Israel, Syria.
I think it was in Syria or
Syria.
some other country.
Syria. So is Iran invoked UN Charter, the point 51. And Iran, I don't know, media is controlled by who controls media. So all information we get comes to us that is skewed in their favor and it benefits them. We have seen some AI and some, doctored footage where we see that Iran is firing missiles at Israel. So war has escalated to that point now. Pretty much entire Middle East, on one end is Iran, on the other end is Israel and Syria. Then Egypt, which starts Africa, then Africa starts. So war has spread all around that. And who's responsible for that? If you remember Anthony Blinken, who's the Secretary of State, his speech, he said, "Oh, I'm a Jew." And most of the secretaries of state have been Jews. And I feel your pain. And he stood with Israel when Israel was carpet bombing the unarmed civilians in Palestine. What moral authority and courage your democracy has left? Which young person will get up and go and vote for that democracy that was against the interest of American people, against the very principles, policies founded by the founding fathers? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Where is life? Where is liberty? And where is pursuit of happiness in a war where you go and carpet bombs unarmed civilians, women? Half of them are children. So, my dear, this is the sad story of today's fractured democracy of the United States. We are in the election year, and we are talking about what is affecting. Today, the most damaging factor for American democracy, for American moral superiority, for American human rights campaign is the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel and Palestine, which also has nothing to do much with Israel or Palestine. It's China. We want to block China's influence there. We want to dig Ben Gurion Canal to cut the Middle Eastern mobility, China's mobility, because Suez Canal is bound by international treaties and all that. But once we have Ben Gurion Canal, that will, reduce the influence of China or international treaties and organizations, and this will be controlled by them. So we will be able to stop them. And now Iran. Once you drag Russia, Iran, and Palestinian groups into war, where Israel, European Union are involved. I mean, how far is World War? How far is World War III, which is going to be a very, very devastating war? Will I come out and vote? Voting is in like 4 months, 5 months. The process continues until that. Would you want to vote? I mean, who would you elect? One person who's been declared by courts, by politicians, by organizations, by institutions, like he is the only criminal in this country. On the other hand, is the executive authority of this country, which is actually criminal. War criminal. Who's going to vote? When you don't have voters, what democracy? All right, Ziad, you want to say something?
Yes, I am going to use a reference of what we did in the past with the war against Soviet in Afghanistan. So I'm going to use the word Taliban, right? Every time you mention Taliban, it raises eyebrows. Everybody, they want to go out there and get these Talibans and eradicate them from Afghanistan or from wherever they're present in the world, right? But if you, look at the history, right, who created these Talibans? It was the US, the Saudi Arabia, and together with Pakistani military, we created Talibans. Back then, they were freedom fighters.
Which, mind you, Pakistani military is just a gun for a fire.
Yeah, it was just a gun.
They get the money and they do whatever you tell them to do. They will wag their tail for you as long as you show them the dollar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, these Taliban were created back then, and they were the freedom fighters. They were the heroes, and they were hailed. Every action that they took, they were considered heroes, and everybody praised them around the world. So my question to all these politicians, these people that are in power right now, or all these incumbents, the current imbecile president as well, I would like to question him. Is that back then we created Taliban, right? These are our own creation. These are our own product that have become a nuisance for us now.
And it's not just Taliban, it's Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS.
Yes. And there are so many factions that, that have different names that, further originated from this one, basic Taliban framework that we created in Islam, in Afghanistan. So my question to them is that, there's a saying that in English, I believe it's a British English saying, "As you sow, so shall you reap," right?
Yes.
So these are the seeds that we sowed, and
And this concept in some form or fashion exists in all civilizations, in all societies. Like in subcontinent, it's known as karma. Islam also has that. It is everywhere, and you reap as well as you sow.
Exactly. So what we've actually been doing since the past so many years, for almost 7 decades, and if you look at the history of Palestine and Israel right now, is that we've been fueling this one side of extremism from the Israeli side, right? We've been constantly justifying every act of violence that they've been conducting. And we have, in Israel, we've created this generations and generations of psychopaths, criminals, serial killers, terrorists, pedophiles, sex offenders. Where the moral concepts of respecting humanity does not exist at all. And this has happened over decades and decades. So this poison, this black army that we've created, this army of the dark side, the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces that we've created, that have been dehumanizing the Palestinians for years, where they do not even know what the concept of moral values are, what civilization is, what a civilized human being is supposed to do. They don't know what war crimes are. They have no concept of those whatsoever. From the videos that I've seen, the way they don't even know how to respect the dead. Like the things that they've done to women and children. I believe what concerns me the most is that this is going to come back and haunt us, because we have been complicit in this. We've been supporting Israel, unwavering, blinded support that we've been giving them in terms of financial taxpayer dollars that we've been dumping in Israel. We have so many of our own local national issues that we've been setting aside, because of us standing with Israel. What is it? Why is that we always have to defend every illegitimate action of Israel? This is the question that American people, every ethnicity, every subculture in America, every sub-society in America is questioning now. We have our own issues. We want our kid to have free education, free college education. We want free medical care, like in so many other countries. Why there's so much high incarceration rate in the US, being the #1 economy in the world, so-called. There are so many major issues that have not been addressed, but rather we've been dumping our taxpayer dollar and shoving it on a Zionist regime that is an extremist terrorist organization. So my question is that people right now have started questioning this, like this whole framework that defends, the Zionist network. And what's happening right now is it has come back to damage the American politics. The image of Democrats is severely tarnished and tainted, and people now are looking for third options. Why we don't have a third party system? Why don't we have a third and fourth party in the US? Why do we have, since years and years, people are questioning this two-party rigged system that is completely controlled by the military-industrial complex and the establishment? Why people don't have grassroots politicians that are not supported by, these super PACs and funded? So there's people rising up in constituencies, individual constituencies, like teachers, like veterans that are now standing up and challenging these status quo politicians that have not done anything to protect the interest of America, rather than damaging having such a bad foreign policy that is damaging the democracy and the image of America overseas. So people are coming back and questioning, and they're challenging these, these politicians. So I think this I would call it the great awakening that has started amongst a common man. It should continue, and people need to look for third and fourth and fifth options rather than going and selecting people from this two-party system where everybody gets corrupted from these super PACs, by the time they come into power. So that's all my thought that I had to share with you, sir. Thank you.
All right, there you have it, friends. This is our fractured democracy, and war and our flawed foreign policy and domestic policies have been damaging our democracy. And only people can fix a democracy. No politician, no vested interest group, no corporation will come and fix our democracy. We will have to do it. We will keep talking about the steps that the citizens and citizens groups should take, community organizations should take to strengthen our democracy and heal it from the wounds that we inflicted by invading countries and carpet bombing innocent people. Thank you very much. Keep watching, and we will be back with more.